Hey guys, my name is Lilia Doytchinova, and I'm the writer, director, producer of The Haunting of Hollywood.
I'm Tiffany Downey, and I'm one of the stars of Lilia's feature debut, The Haunting of Hollywood.
So I guess Lily, I'll start with you. So is this I just you just said this is your feature debut. So this is your first film that you've put out?
My first feature length, yes.
Wow. So how long have you been doing kind of directing and filmmaking?
Well, I started as a student at theater college in upstate New York and then transferred to USC. So I guess my really filmmaking journey began at USC and then working on a lot of film productions, the Hollywood productions that I had a chance to be part of. So I'd say probably 10 plus years now.
Wow. So you went to school for it in New York, and you which kind of films were you working on in I assume in LA?
I was part of the Expendables franchise, 2, 3, and
Oh,
4.
cool.
Creed 2, Ray Donovan, also Wrong Turn 5.
And what kind of stuff were you doing for the films?
Well, I was assistant to producers and directors, so I had a chance to really work closely with the main guys, and just be part of the whole entourage, and so I had a really great chance to see the insights of making a Hollywood machine, and what
Yeah.
it takes to.
Yeah, I've heard that like the assistant is kind of like the best way to really learn because you're really in the trenches and like really getting your hands dirty with the
Absolutely,
project, you know.
absolutely, and I was actually very lucky because I was still at USC when I got my first job. I was actually just started USC, so I was like my first year, and I was home in Bulgaria for the summer. And then my dad heard somewhere on the news that there's like a studio, like literally 5 minutes away from where my parents live, and they're making American movies there. So he was like, "Well, you go to USC, you speak English, you might as well want to say hello." And I absolutely did. I sure did. I got on the public bus. I brought my resume with me, and I got in, and there was like a big security guy right out front, and he was like, "Well, what do you do there?" And I'm like, "I'm here for the internship." There's no internship or nothing like that. But I was like, I had to go inside somehow and talk to them. So, I mean, I guess I didn't look too suspicious or anything like that. It's just like a young girl with her resume. I guess they let me in, and I went to talk to the manager, and he was like, "Well, do you know who Sylvester Stallone is?" And at that time, I did not know, honestly. It's like, I get, and he was like, "Well, would you want to work on the Expendables and be his assistant?" And I was like, "Wow," so it
Yeah.
just kind of like everything aligned, and I was just so lucky, and so then I had to take a leave of absence from USC to stay and work, because the project was 4 or 5 months, and then after I did that, then I went back to USC, but then I had to take leave of absences in between because I stayed with that team, the Expendables, and they were amazing, and I'm so grateful to them for keep bringing me back. And so I feel like I had two colleges parallel going at the
Yeah.
same time, USC and then the real world. And yeah,
So how was that, like kind of doing them like side by side? Like I'm curious, I think I know the answer already, but which do you feel like you learned more from?
I mean, of course, being on set,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously. But what USC gave me was amazing. Obviously, I met amazing fellow filmmakers that some of them, now became part of my current team on this feature. Obviously, I learned so much about history, and I was exposed to amazing professors, and just, it was incredible opportunity for education. But the practicality, of like really what is the politics, and I learned from being on set. But still, USC, they did try to prepare us a lot because USC definitely is very oriented about the US, the Hollywood, how really Hollywood works. So it's been a
That's
big
awesome.
journey.
That's really cool. That's a great way to get your foot in the door for sure.
Yeah. I was just lucky, because there was not many Bulgarians who go to USC and speak English. So
Hmm.
it's just for them,
Yeah.
like, was the right fit.
The stars aligned, as they
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. And how about you? How long have you been acting? How'd you get into acting?
So I started when I was young in elementary school doing plays, and every opportunity I had when I was younger to play pretend, I grabbed it. Um, then, not really having a clear path because I didn't grow up directly in Hollywood, I sort of leaned into broadcast journalism because it was media, and I could follow a lane of how to, like, so it puts you near what you want to do at least.
Yeah.
Then I went to school at Pepperdine in Malibu, and as soon as I landed in the vicinity of Hollywood, like my girlfriends and I were asked to be extras on a movie set, like, pretty immediately. And the minute I stepped on my first set, I was like, "This is what I want to be doing." Like,
Yeah.
I also
What was that first set?
it was a movie called 18 Again, and it was just a young, there were flapper dancers, and like, my girlfriends and I were getting up at like 4 in the morning, still doing our college classes, but like getting up at 4 in the morning, and then going and, being on set all day dressed in the roaring 20s. And then being, at that time you want to go into meal penalties and all that because you're trying to make your money too. So, yeah, I think like we went through a period of time where like nobody was sleeping because then we would get back to the school and like have to go to a class. But that was like my first experience of seeing inside how a film set works, and just I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I really didn't have any good mentorship or direction. So my whole path in Hollywood's been sort of like always being kind of next to what I want to do. But, I got very lucky. I had a serious boyfriend when I was younger who was an actor, and um, I would either be around his sets or we'd be watching films. So in a lot of ways, I call him kind of my first film school because he was the one to show me Taxi Driver and like all the like early great films. And that was like predominantly what we did with our time was watch movies and discuss them. And I even worked on one of a script that he was writing. And so a lot of my experience came through real world experience and people. And then also as I got older, I took advantage of a lot of workshops and like every Q&A from Robert Rodriguez explaining how he made, his first film to the Coen brothers to you name it. I went to every like film screening and Q&A and belonged to a lot of different indie filmmaker organizations. And so it just sort of like it's a meandering path, a combination of working as an actress, is trying to support myself as a commercial print model. I also love to travel, so I ended up moving to New York and eventually to Paris. I had also gone to school in London. So,
Oh wow.
so my path,
So you're all over the world.
yeah, my path is sort of a mixed bag of all that. But really, it was COVID and the break that COVID provided that allowed me to sort of get recentered. And then, like a lot of people, that was like for a lot of people, like what you really want to do with your life. And
Yeah.
I've gotten involved with. I own a recording studio as well, so
Cherokee Studios.
yeah, which
Nice.
played a role in our film. We'll talk about later. So now I'm at a point in my life where it's sort of like bringing all of these experiences and disciplines together, and also approaching acting from a much more enjoyable place, without the desperation when you're younger and you're trying to, make something happen.
Yeah.
Now looking for the kinds of projects that have characters that you really want to resonate with, and
Yeah.
you know,
You kind of just be in the creative flow and not have the stresses
Yeah.
kind of weighing you down for sure.
yeah, I definitely
Oh,
learned. I
that's
think
awesome.
the biggest lesson that everybody tries to teach you when you're younger, which is there's no destination. Life is just
Yeah.
a continuous journey, and
Yeah.
so making sure that you're enjoying what you're doing, because that's it. That is, all we're all doing is the now of what we're creating. So
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I have a saying that I use in other contexts, but it applies here too. I say infinity is a direction, not a destination.
Yeah,
and that really kind of applies to life.
Yeah.
And yeah, 100%. I totally hear that. So I'm curious with this film, um, the creative choice to kind of go the horror route. What was the where that decision come from?
That was actually in the origin of the idea. I wanted to make a. I felt comfortable making a horror as my first feature. I felt like that was the right
Hmm.
path because from just even practically from a producer's point of view, just because while I was before I started directing, I was with my producers and writers head for a few months before I switched the mentality, to the way I think. So, and I felt like horror is a genre that is a great genre to allow you to express anxieties and dark thoughts and fears in a creative way, and you don't need to justify, or you don't need to, it's kind of like gives you more creativity to be abstract. And I thought that's perfect for me for where I was when I started writing this feature. And then I started learning from the masters, of in the horror genre, and I realized I think that, and that makes sense also for the story, like what the topics that we discuss. It felt like horror, and but then it kind of became a thriller, so we
Yeah.
kind of morphed it, we kind of, more, kind of cross genres a little bit with this movie, but
There was also,
yeah.
I think, the addition of the coincidence of COVID happening at the time that Lilia was finally coming together with starting production, and then COVID happened, and then COVID brings its own eerie quality. So,
Yeah.
like that became a huge contribution to the film's production look, which definitely lends itself more to horror and psychological thriller than like if you were trying to do a serious drama about the boulevard. Where are all the people? All the tools
Yeah.
missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in touch with someone from your team about having you on, they had mentioned that you filmed during COVID, and so
Yeah.
you got those empty streets, which really kind of, like you're saying, kind of lent to this kind of eerie vibe that you kind of get, which is, it's worked out well for you, I guess.
Very well. That one, I think that just aligned. We weren't
Yeah.
planning for it. It just happened like that. So we embraced it fully.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So one thing I wanted to ask you about that we talked about briefly before we started recording, and that is a big central theme of the film, kind of centers around mental health. And so first of all, kind of what was the inspiration for you that kind of made you feel like you wanted to bring that out in the film? And what were kind of things that you were trying to do with that?
Great question. Well, a few different things. First of all, I did wanted to make my feature. I did wanted to make about Hollywood and about my life here because I live in Hollywood, and I feel like I absorbed a lot of my environment and just kind of the vibe and the atmosphere and the feeling of working actors and struggling artists. I was just really, really understanding that, and me myself has been have been going through also some dark times, and I've experienced that also through other friends and people around me. So it did feel authentic for me to write a feature about something that takes place here and addresses the anxieties and fears and insecurities and all kinds of dark thoughts of artists here in Hollywood. Then obviously I did my big research on Hollywood history. I came across the story of Tegan Twiso, who is a British actress who committed suicide in 1932 from the Hollywood sign. And I was deeply inspired by her story, very touched, and I decided that somehow I need to implement her in the story and bring her storyline as well. So it's just kind of like all these things kind of came together, then as I was casting, finding all the actors, I wanted everybody of them to kind of all of us to align and kind of share all of us the disappointments, the ups and downs that we all been through in the industry, whether you just arrived or you've been here for a while, so I think like that. And then I kind of wanted everybody to bring that as well. So just the story has been, as we were talking about journeys, finishing the script has been, and the movie has been a whole journey, and the movie kept morphing and changing as we go. First it was one thing, as we started filming, we were changing as we went to post production. You know, then that was another chance to rewrite the movie again. So it was just kind of changing, but it's always been just a true depiction of our mental state and bringing awareness to that, because I don't think we talk enough about it, or we talk about it after it's already too late.
Right.
We don't bring it when it's happening. And I know it's very big. Mental health is a big issue, or not issue, just like a big thing in people's lives, especially artists, especially when the stakes are so high, when the chances for success are so little. The anxiety and the pressures are huge, and we don't talk enough about it every day. I don't think we all take measures to take care of ourselves. I feel like that is always at the back burner. And yeah, we all have to take self-care, but do we really do it? Do we really do it daily? And we're just kind of like shining light this movie of the mental state of the struggling artist at the moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
I think, yeah, the other thing I would just add is that I think in general, we're in these interesting times where we're having these conversations we didn't used to have.
Right.
And the nature of Hollywood, I find it like a big magnifying glass. If you come into this town with problems, or not a stable foundation you're operating from, it's going to be magnified, which is why so many people become victims. If you come with desperation, like we see in our character in the film, looking for fame or validation to basically like make her life make sense, which we all know is never going to work.
Right.
But I feel like, Hollywood becomes a big magnifier for whatever. You really got to have a solid foundation when you're working as any kind of an artist, because the nature of what you do even is not stable. It's not a 9-to-5 job. There's no guaranteed paycheck. There's lots of predators. Business itself is predatory. Even things that seem like they're like for artists are often taking advantage of us, charging us or convincing us to spend money here and there. And it's very hard to navigate through all of that, which is why I think our industry sees a lot of nepotism too, because one of the safest ways to succeed in Hollywood is to be shepherded through by people who know how it works. Because the little girl that got dropped off from, Kansas at the bus stop is like,
Where am I? Yeah.
and then it's
Right.
like, oh, you got to go to this headshot photographer, and you got to go to this class, and you need to do this networking thing, and it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And then from that, what we explore in this film also is multi-generational mental health. So then what happens when you already have something built in, and maybe some of it is inherited and some of it is a learned behavior, and then you're exposed to one of the most toxic industries. And that's, I think, the opportunity to dig into that was just really, it was a really great experience.
Yeah. Can you talk about some of your experience? Like, how, if you don't mind, divulging the information, like how did you kind of navigate and because I'm sure
Well,
you've been doing it for a while, and it's not an easy industry to navigate, especially the acting side of things is, I'd say, one of the most difficult, because, it's the most, there's, I don't know if I'd say the stakes are the highest, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's the most pressure in a lot of ways of, to perform literally, and to be chosen to get cast, like there's a lot of pressure that goes into it. So how did you kind of navigate that throughout your career?
So I think that one of the reasons that I ended up kind of always kind of tangent to what I really wanted to do was I didn't have the confidence to just 100% go down the direct path. So like if I were giving advice to my younger self now, I would just say, like, it's going to be okay. Just, stick on the road, and you just have to keep going through it. But I had a lot of influences that like you should do it this way, you should do it that way, you should be a producer. You're never going to get cast uh and like be able to do it solely as an actress. You're going to have to, you're going to have to carve your own way. So you need to find projects, and then so a lot of those things I embrace it all now because I learned a lot, but they also took me away from what I was doing. What I wanted to do was really simple. I wanted to pretend to be other people. That's what I enjoy doing the most.
Right.
Then I started getting involved in development, script development, projects. Then you're like, great, I have this great project. Then you find out, yeah, now you got to go get financing for it. So then I had to learn financing and how you put teams together. And all of that in the end has been really positive because I've learned a lot of sides of my industry, and I always was passionate about independent filmmaking. So eventually you reach a place where all of those things are in your toolkit. But I think that that getting lost, I could have so easily gotten lost, let's say, in porn, in, selling my body. I could take someone up on a casting couch offer. Like I've definitely, just as a woman in Hollywood, I've been propositioned all kinds of things that I don't think is shocking to anyone. Like I could be a paid girlfriend. I could do XYZ and get this part. Um, I think anyone who's actually been in this industry for any length of time, and I know my personal experiences, and then I know the experiences of friends of mine firsthand that, are horrifying, and people that are names that and propositioned by other names that I think that it's happening less now. I don't think any of us ever thought the Me Too thing would happen. I think we all just kind of accepted this is the way we get treated. We're women. And if we want to work in this industry, this is kind of, you just sort of accept this other thing, and you've got to sort of navigate the crocodile waters. When the Me Too thing happened, I was like, who would ever imagine someone like Harvey Keitel going down? He was the
Yeah.
king.
Yeah.
So but in the same way, talking about mental health and all these things that we talk about today, all of this, we just used to shove this under the carpet.
Yeah.
So we're in such an amazing time that's opening up. So and as an actor today, there's a really, really big difference than the time period that I started. And that is, you have the tools to make a project on your own with your phone and a couple of friends, or by yourself and a tripod. So the opportunity to create has never been better.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
yeah, we have the ability to do. Before, you used a word that I was like, ding, ding, ding. Earlier you said chosen. And that was the way the industry used to work. That desperation to be chosen. And unless you've lived that, you cannot appreciate what a profound, powerful thing that is. And working as a model, working as an actor, working as a commercial actor, all you're doing every day is trying to be chosen. And
Right.
most often being told what's wrong with you. You're not good enough.
Right.
You're not, important enough. But I've had people want to do plastic surgery on my face, fix my nose because it's not perfect. And that's just a lot of the stuff that you've got to be able to navigate through. And I think today what's different is you don't have to be chosen today. You have to show yourself today. You have to
Yeah.
show what you can do.
Yeah.
Let people notice.
Yeah, I've been having this conversation a lot with all kinds of people across industries that I think we're really going through a very transitional period right now. You see it a lot. Again, this is just from what I've seen personally. You see it a lot in the animation and in the video game, those industries. You're seeing a lot of these independent creators who, due to the resources that you have available now, right? There's so many resources. Just for example, I'm sure you guys heard about the film that just recently won the Oscar, Flow. the animated,
Yeah, shout out.
and that it was made in Blender, a totally free software, right? And there's just we're living in a time. Same thing also with the video game industry. I mean, a lot of the AAA studios that have been kind of the king of the hill are kind of losing their footing, and people, for a number of reasons, people are kind of getting fed up with them because with the video games, I think for just to speak for myself, they kind of have gotten kind of fat and happy, and so they feel like we don't need to give you the quality anymore. We kind of just give you we'll kind of feed you whatever garbage we want to put out, and there's not any of that creativity and passion being put into these projects anymore. And on the one hand, as a consumer, you're like, okay, I want good product, right? So, but that creates this vacuum that allows these independent creators in the video game industry, in the animation industry, in the film industry to come along and to provide that. And you see it across the board. Thank God for the internet. We have YouTube and all these free platforms that you go to, and anybody can make anything. And at that point, really, the cream really does rise to the top, because you can find things on YouTube that are, again, created for free in free softwares. One person did it in their basement, and if it's a good quality show or whatever it is that they're creating, people tell their friends, and it'll catch fire. And next thing that's what people want to see, which is that's a really cool experience to kind of to be a part of. I gotta say, like it's very exciting, very exciting.
I think we're also in this interesting time where the old Hollywood making these films for 100, 200, 300, 400 million. Not that there isn't any place for that, because I know some of those models work, and some of them actually require their budgets. Like I'm thinking of like a James Cameron or somebody where he probably really requires the budget to do the kind of trailblazing work he's doing, or like a George Lucas or whatever, who they do things that like invent new software,
Right.
So I'm not completely against, big budgets, but then we've gotten to these like bloated, ridiculous budgets. Like,
right.
Does a romantic comedy need to cost $50 million,
right.
$100 million, and then now we've just come away from the Oscars where the winning film was a $4 million film. So
yeah.
I remember last year someone making a speech and saying, instead of, one $100 million film, how about 425 or, and breaking it down. And now here we are with a $4 million film winning, answering exactly what that person said. I don't remember the actor who made the speech, but
I mean, I think it's an inevitability because, again, people who are making the projects that they love to make because they want to make it are going to make better product, and make better projects and better art. And, if you're, making this $50 million rom-com and you just kind of throw in the biggest name actors that exist and be like, oh, of course it's going to be a success because everyone wants to see, so-and-so and so-and-so. And it's like, not really, like I want to see a good movie.
Like these
and I think
formulas, they got lazy.
Yeah.
And they kind of got into
100%.
formulas. I've heard of films where the script wasn't even, there's like a concept and they're already shooting it, and literally the script isn't even written. They're like kind of doing it on the fly because the financial formula works, because if you put star A with star B in this setting with this director, like you get this foreign sales and blah blah, but none of those models really work anymore. And I think the consumer is being more demanding, which is good.
Again, as a consumer, from the consumer side of things, you have to be, because it's such an oversaturated market now with Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple TV, and there's a million and one streaming platforms that I can go to that I don't want to sit there scrolling through one streaming platform. If I don't find something that I like, I don't want to be here anymore. So it's you really have to perform, and I think a lot of the bigger power players are starting to kind of pick that up now. And so you see a lot of projects getting scrapped, and people are like, well, why is it getting scrapped? And they kind of speculate X, Y, and Z. And I think a lot of times they're getting scrapped because they were just kind of trying to apply this formula of like, oh, of course, if we make Lion King live action, the fifth one, of course it's going to be a smashing hit. And it's like, I'm not so sure about that.
It's not about the budget or the stars anymore. It's about the content.
Yeah, and who would have even
100%.
guessed that Marvel would eventually run its course? But I think people are even bored with that now. As big as that was, and as like guaranteed of a hit as that was, I don't think it's guaranteed anymore. I think people are bored with that.
For the same reason. It's for the same reason because they just keep applying the same formula over and over, and you get bored. You
You get
like I
bored,
found
yeah.
myself. I forget which one it was, but one of the Marvel movies. I was sitting there in the theater, and I'm like, okay, like I know what's going to happen next, and then what's going to happen after that, and what's going to
Yeah.
happen after that, and it's like, so why am I coming to watch it anymore? Like, because
Yeah.
you have cool costumes. Like, okay, I'll see the pictures online.
Right.
Eh,
And
you
also
know,
makes, yeah, like we need,
yeah.
new content.
Yeah, 100%.
Here we go.
So let me ask you, speaking about kind of original content, and we'll bring it back to you guys. So how do you kind of balance when you're creating? How do you kind of balance like a rigid sort of structure of like this is what I want to do versus kind of allowing your intuition and kind of free flowing? Like, how do you kind of strike that balance between the two?
Well, you do the balance by first having a structure. I think first it's important to have a structure and to write everything down. I'm talking about screenplay here, and to have a very clear idea and be as prepared as you possibly can. But then once you're on set, I'm very much operate from intuition level. I really go with my intuition when I'm directing, and just kind of sharpening it as you go, and the more you listen to it, it gets sharper and sharper. So I think it's about being prepared, and then once you're prepared and you know exactly what you want, what you're going for, then you can allow to just kind of like put that structure on the side and just allow for magic to happen.
Yeah.
And I actually did a lot of improvisation with this movie, maybe a little too much than I actually realized later.
In
Uh,
editing,
in
when you have
editing,
things sorted.
yeah, because I definitely should have shot it a lot like documentary style, which I think worked great for this movie because I definitely wanted that realism in there as well, heightened. So um, yeah, I think it's just really it's about a lot of preparation, and then letting it all go on the day when you're with everybody and just seeing what everybody can bring out also, and just collecting the best pieces, and
Yeah.
putting them all together.
I
Yeah.
love that Lilia is open as a director because some people are so rigid that regardless of what's happening around them, they're going to do the thing they set out to do, and they maybe miss those golden opportunities. And this film had a lot of challenges, and she faced each one, incorporated it into what was happening, kind of mined them all for the gold, turned them into. And as an indie filmmaker, because we're always working with less time, less money, less resources, less everything, you have to be even more creative. So even as the project took different turns, we found ways to add the things we wanted to add without having a big budget, but to adapt and include those. So the whole process was very creative, but definitely would not have worked if her whole process was rigid. She
Yeah.
had to be, and then you can't be completely like just go loosey goosey because then you have to have still the structure and leadership as a director. We're still all following her.
Right.
Otherwise,
Right.
if you're like everybody improv, like I've seen some of those films, and you can watch them and you can feel where it went off into an improv
Uh-huh.
because it's just the energy changes a little bit. So, we're still all following her leadership and her through line, but the film definitely took turns and took advantage of things that were happening that opened new opportunities.
Yeah, like college, for example.
Yeah.
It's basic, but yeah. And speaking of what we were talking about earlier, it's like I wasn't waiting for anybody to give me a budget or anything like that or give me the green light. It was just once I graduated USC and worked on so many projects, I was like, I'm ready to do my feature, and that's what I'm hungry for, and that's what I'm going to do next. And
Yeah.
just to
How big was the team?
well, I would say about 35, 30,
Nice.
yeah, altogether post
Yeah. Yeah.
production. Yeah.
Nice. That's great.
skeleton,
It's like
but still.
it's kind of keep it slim, but like
Yeah.
it gets the job done. You
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. But yeah, when we were on set on filming, I don't think we were more than 15 or 16 at the time.
Which
Cool.
is important to be fast moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The more people you have, the more logistically it just gets more difficult. And
Yeah.
yeah. How long did it take to film the whole thing?
So the actual principal photography was 14 days, but prep, almost a year, and then post production a couple of years.
Well, and just to add, as she mentioned before, when she was talking about her process going to school and doing that in tandem with working with the big film franchises, so she was doing that also in her post. So she was still maintaining her professional career because one of the big franchises, went again. So she was doing that while also moving the film forward. So something we all end up doing in Hollywood too is, the multi-hyphenate, which we still do today.
You gotta juggle.
Yeah.
Juggling. Yeah, you become a professional juggler without even realizing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's one of her biggest dreams in her next project when we're going through hard stuff together. And she's like, I don't want to do this again because, she's the publicist, she's the PR girl, she's the wrangler, on the red carpet, just,
For sure.
I would love a team for the next one, a bigger team.
So I want to ask you, because we spoke before about kind of the challenges of getting into acting, but what are some of the challenges like getting into directing and that kind of side of things? Because obviously that's also not an easy, anything in the film industry is not easy to break into. But what are some like the challenges that come along with kind of getting into the directing and producing side of things?
Before she answers, can I also just say one thing that
absolutely
people forget, and people who don't know as much about filmmaking, as hard as it is for me to get a job, there's only one director. Right. That is the hardest job in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the hardest working person also is definitely the director. But I mean, I think from what she said earlier, from what Tiffany was talking earlier, like I definitely think being just a woman in Hollywood comes a little bit with I think it's a little bit more challenging than it would be if you weren't, just because it's so easier to be invited to stuff and trying to be seduced here and there.
People want to help your career,
right, and, right.
But now things are changing. Women. You see more filmmakers, women, and women taking charge. It's great. I love that. But yeah, it's definitely because the competition is fierce. It's been a word dominated by men. And you coming as a young woman, wanting to put your foot down and leave your mark or be, have the word or be the leader, I think it's just about truly believing in yourself, It's just like believing in yourself, believing that you belong in the room, you belong to be here. You have something that you care about that you want to say and express and you're capable of and you believe in your talent and you just do everything you can to make it happen. And I think people around you can sense that, like we humans, we sense when somebody's genuine and honest, and I think we navigate to that and are drawn to that naturally. So I think just being tough and in a nice way and just speaking up your mind and doing the work and then eventually let the results and speak for yourself, speak your behavior and what do you do, let the work speak for itself.
Yeah, for sure.
I also want to say a couple things just to compliment her as a director. And even setting aside creative and artistic talent, but just the act of finishing a film is a huge thing. But to really actually, I have friends who have films half done, 3/4 done, and they drop out and pose or whatever, and just so the act of finishing a film, because it is really hard. So the first test of a director is can you finish and can you cross the finish line? And so
Yeah.
she proved that as a woman with limited resources, with a lot of doors closing in her face, with a lot of obstacles, she did not give up and she finished the film. Then she had to enter the whole world of distribution. She got it, represented and distributed and got through all of those, past all those barriers. But now we're really pushing hard to promote the film, which is another place where a lot of people are like, I'm done, here you go. But I feel like we're also proving to our industry that we understand that we are in the arts, but we are also in a business, and we will carry this all the way across the finish line, which is truly to the end, which is the promotion and the support and getting the word out. And just imagine if you gave us a little more money.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely to what you were saying about the finishing a project. Like that's definitely the hardest part. Like it's very easy to start projects, but to finish projects, that's where the
It's
where
hard.
the rubber meets the road.
It's hard to start and to finish, to be honest with you. It's hard to start too at the beginning.
It definitely is hard to start, but
Yeah.
I in my experience at least, it's
Yeah.
it's always harder to finish. Like 'cause
I'm
for
with
me,
you. I can start
I'm a very
a lot of things.
exactly. I'm very creative, so I always like think of ideas. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then like I'm gonna start, and I start, and then I'm like, okay, I'm bored. Oh, it got too challenging. Like I don't want to push through, and so it's the initial excitement to like get started.
Yeah.
That kind of spark, like sometimes like pushes you, but then as the honeymoon phase wears off, and you're kind of sitting there like, oh wait, now I gotta like put in the hard work and like kind of slog through it. All of a sudden, it starts to.
And there becomes a lonely period where I know, because I've seen it, I've even heard some of the conversations. There's the lonely period where the people around you even start saying, "What are you doing? You should just give up. Like this isn't gonna, how much money have you spent already? Like, what are you really gonna get out of it?" That's I've heard it. I've been with her with people saying like, and even when she got to the point where she finished, I've been aware of conversations like, "It's done now. Move on." Like, let it go, move on. It's not going to go anywhere anyway. So just, like do your next thing. I don't know why that is. I think maybe part of human nature is if you are one of those unique people like she is that are going to carry the ball through, it sort of is threatening to the people who want to sort of convince you like, hey, slow down. Don't make us all look bad. Like, come back down to this level where we don't finish things, and it's okay, because like we all quit too. Come back to the quitter.
Yeah.
So,
what they call it, a tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
The tall poppy gets its head cut off. Like it definitely is something to that. No question about it. No question about it.
The challenges, and I know that when all of the right people meet her and see what she's accomplished, there are a lot of people in Hollywood that will be impressed with a woman who actually, kept going and finished the job.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously here with Tiffany, doing all this promotion, she's been the best trooper. She's been doing all the interviews with me and being Owen. So we truly believe in this. So, we put our hearts and souls into this project, and this is for the people to enjoy. So we want to reach as many people as possible, and hopefully they get something from it or learn something from it, and and it's touched them in a positive way, even though it's a cautionary tale. But
just out of curiosity, did you submit to like any film festivals or anything of that sort?
Oh yeah, and we actually won a couple of festivals. We actually a few festivals here in LA where they
nice.
became crowd's favorites here with the Golden State Film Festival and Silicon Beach Film Festival. We won twice for Best Thriller. We were nominated for Best Music at the Top Indie Film Awards and Best Editing. There's like a Best First Time Director Award too. So we've been making little waves for festivals. Yeah.
We also went to the Cannes Film Festival in 2024, and so the film was represented at the market there, and that was our first really big festival, like being there with the film, and then also it was both of our first Cannes, so that was an amazing experience.
That's really cool. Wow, that's congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That was the last guy I spoke with, who also the indie filmmaker, and he was working on a film, and yeah, I think he was wrapping it up at the time. And this is, he kind of is coming from a, not from, as in not already with the foot in the door. He's kind of coming as an outsider. But he was talking about kind of the importance for him to get into festivals, and how crucial it is to really kind of, kind of get into those circles, because that's really, where the people are going to see it. And
And
so again, like,
the community, because you
yeah,
start to meet all the other filmmakers who are doing what you're doing, and building that network. We try to support each
yeah,
other. We've developed genuine, really good friendships with people that we've met through that
Festivals,
process.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah. So I have two questions that are kind of in two different directions. So I do want to get to both of them. So I'll start with one, and then just, I don't want to forget, because I want to get back to the music thing. So
Yes, okay.
we'll come right back to that. But I wanted to ask you, Lilia, you touched upon this a little earlier, about kind of your personal experiences shaping the film. Can you kind of talk about that a bit more, about kind of what sort of personal experiences were you drawing on that you kind of brought out in this film?
So, well, when I first got to LA, I'm from Bulgaria, first of all, which is, for anybody listening don't know where Bulgaria is. It's a small, beautiful country in Southeastern Europe, and comparatively way small than than LA, maybe, or California. But when I first got to LA, I was very young. I think I was 19, and I was just so scared. Like, LA was just this like big, vast place for me. I didn't have a car or anything. Like, it took me a little while to kind of like even settle in or feel comfortable. Like, I feel like I'm still even adapting, even though it's been so many years now. Like, it's just the adjustment period for me in LA just took a very long time. And during that time, I was at USC, which is also a pressure to perform, because it's the best film school in the world, and I wasn't going to fail. So, and I'm ambitious just by nature. So, I just feel like I had a lot of things going on for me that I wanted to be very good at very quickly, but I realized that I needed a longer time of adjustment. And during that time is when I started doing my shorts, and I met a lot of, you know, actors, and naturally some of them became very good friends of mine. And then I realized that I'm not the only one who's feeling lonely and lost. And in LA, there's a lot of other people who even are from here or live here, and I was just always like so intrigued and kind of like surprised, like shocked in a way, of like why all these beautiful people that I casted in my shorts, or like were my friends actors, were so sad. Like they're always like, there's always this excitement about the big audition was happening. I just got auditioned for this famous show or that famous show, but and that anticipation of waiting for the callback or waiting to sign, and that never came through, and then seeing them going in a complete desperation for months and not knowing how to get out of it, so it's just like, coming here to Hollywood, I was like bright eyed, and I thought, once you're here and I'm at USC, things should work out, like this is the best film school, this is the capital of entertainment, like things should align. But no, it's a whole journey, as we're talking, um, and I just found so many sad people here, especially on the lower levels, because I also had the opportunity to be at the highest levels and at the lowest levels. So it's like I saw the huge gap in between of starting actors to the working actors. And it's just like these observations were made a huge impact on me. And with that, of me going through my own, struggling journey of adapting and adjusting and learning about myself and film and becoming the artist that I still am becoming it, so it's just like all of that, all of that combines. definitely was put into the movie. And then all the amazing casting crew that are part of this, they all have been on their journey of ups and lows and in the industry. So it was just kind of like a combination of everybody's, bittersweet experiences
Yeah.
in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I want to ask
Is
a
it-
question before you ask the next
Yeah.
question, because I also think it's interesting because you have had a lot of exposure to big stars and young startup talent, and you probably saw as much mental dysfunction on both ends, right?
Absolutely.
Like being the megastar that the young person or the person trying to get to that place that is supposedly going to be the end all be all, you've seen firsthand.
Yeah.
They're in no better position.
Yeah.
There was a great
they're
speech.
going through their, honestly, it's like even at the highest level, they're pressured to maintain that level, of like, they're
Yeah.
even more concerned about what is my image, what would people think of me, like, where to me as the little assistant, I felt like that is absurd. Like,
You made it.
yeah, you're like the legend that
Yeah.
on the legend everybody want to be like and learn from. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. You made it, but for them, it's like, no, because I've made it. Now I have to make sure I'm perfect every time.
Yeah.
Every time. So it's a crazy business that we're in that we all love. But we talked once with Tiffany. It's like it's a business that is a bipolar.
Yeah.
It has its own mental.
You have to have so much. You have to have so much grounding, which maybe that was my blessing, not having stayed on my path and kind of meandering all around, is that I re-enter the business now with a different kind of a different orientation and a little bit more of a grounding and a better awareness. Like, who knows, maybe I would have become a maybe I would have hit some early success and been a drug addict or whatever. I mean, it's
right.
entirely possible. I certainly had the mental makeup that I could fall into any of those things. So I may have been actually protected by not having had early success in that way. But I really like the biggest thing I think that we're exploring even in our film is this chasing a dream. And, Hollywood is made up of dreamers. People come here from all over the world to pursue a dream. And some of those people are the artists who want to live and express the dream. And some are the people who are the fantasy dreamers that have a fantasy that there's a thing that can happen that will make give their life all meaning, all everything.
Right.
Like fame. Like fame should, if the whole world loves me, then that hole in me will be filled, right? Which we all know isn't true. But so by living and working in Hollywood, you're navigating a lot of that mental traffic.
Yeah.
That's why it's so crucial to have a strong support system around you. And very lucky and blessed with people who have their family or partners in life or a strong group of friends, because you need that in moments when you feel rejected from the industry or whatever, you can't find, you need that support system. So that's so crucial. And that's why I think it's so important for us filmmakers and actors to build our community and support each other, be kind to one another. And that's why it's so important to bring awareness to mental health and just be kinder and find a way to be kinder, to one another.
Yeah.
Because it's just
and more honest.
The more honest
we are about how we all feel and what we're going through, the more that other people will see, I'm not the only one, And maybe there's one person listening to this podcast that thinks that becoming famous is going to be the answer to their prayers. And maybe we'll open a book instead and who knows?
Yeah.
Touch some
It's
grass.
not about being famous, right? It's about
creating.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always heard this, and I can't say this because it's, I haven't experienced it, but I've always heard that even holding the golden Oscar, the moment, it's a moment, because all anxiety is there the next morning again of what's next, because that builds up to you achieve a moment, but you can't live in in that moment forever. And so you're back in the soup again. What's next?
Yeah.
What are you going to do
Yeah.
next?
There was a great speech. I think it was an Oscar speech given by Jim Carrey a number of years ago, and he talks about he's on this exact point. He talks about like it was I guess his third Oscar, whatever it was, and he was saying I'm 3-time not just Jim Carrey. I'm 3-time, maybe it wasn't Oscar Gold, whatever the award was.
Yeah.
3-time award winning Jim Carrey. He said. And when I go to sleep, I don't have regular dreams. I have dreams of 3-time. And he goes on. He goes, but now I dream of being 4-time winning, and then I'll be enough. And it's like, it's true. It just goes to show, like even the people who are the biggest names out there, they're at the end of the day, they're still people.
Yeah.
And we're all a lot more alike than we like to think sometimes. A lot of times we think, I'm the only one who's experiencing this. No one else can relate to what I'm experiencing because, no one else has it as hard as I do. No one else can no one else can understand, how difficult this is. And we kind of, it's a disservice to ourselves, really, that we kind of isolate ourselves and we put up these walls around ourselves of like, no, nobody else can understand me because I'm so unique, right? I'm so, there's only one me and no one else can experience it. But in truth, we all are kind of experiencing the same thing, just in different,
and
different skins.
Is I think such a profound thing. I know I recently was having a conversation with a really successful businesswoman. Like, I'm so impressed by this woman. And I personally had a really hard year in 2024 with business. And I thought it was just uniquely me because I just assumed. And she started talking, she said something, and I was like, well, 2024 for me was really hard. And she's like, oh my God, yeah. And she rattles off this whole thing. I'm like, but you have this. And you realize her telling me that made me feel so much better. It's a terrible thing to say that somebody else's bad experience makes, but instantly I felt like, oh, I'm not such a horrible, failure, blah, blah, whatever that I'm putting on myself. Because other people also had a really hard year, even people that I'm looking up to and admiring. And I think, again, as artists and actors and filmmakers, that's all we're trying to do is we're trying to explore human nature, human experience. We're trying to put situations out there so somebody can say oh yeah, I recognize that, or feel more compassion, or connect with feelings that they have, or
at the end of the day, heal. We're healing ourselves by expressing, and hopefully on the other side, somebody receiving that, they're being healed as well.
Ultimately, it's just kind of showing that we're not alone. That's, I think, what really kind of all boils down to, is that I think the more I'll use depressed as kind of a catch-all term here, but the more depressed we get, the more isolated we make ourselves. Right, we kind of pull ourselves into our shells. Right. And then it kind of spirals, because then the more you do that, then the more you feel isolated, and then kind of goes on and on and on and on. When in truth, if you recognize that, it's all kind of a construct that you're kind of just creating for yourself. That you're not, it's really, again, to reiterate my point, we really are kind of the same thing. Right. We're all experiencing the same human experience. Yeah. Right. Maybe we come from different places, and maybe we've had different life experiences, but we all have the same human condition. Ultimately, it really kind of
and again,
we lose sight of that.
Same basic needs.
Yeah, 100%. It's even deeper than that. It's we I think we really all kind of have the same experience. We all again, it's the same formula with different pieces being plugged in, right? Is it maybe the X here is a 6 and there it's a 7, but it's all the same formula that's being applied across the board, Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question, a film specific question, and that is, what was, I was going to ask it like this. What was with the hallucinations? What was the kind of the idea there?
Oh man, I love hallucinations. I'm first of all, a big fan of art and psychedelic art and psychedelic music. I love the visuals of it. I think it's a great way to express a feeling without really saying what it is, or without like really putting words, you know what I mean? It's just like a painting in a way. It's a painting, and
Hmm.
you present it and you leave it up for people to be infused with the emotions that you're expressing through that painting, and let that sit with them to go to the next scene. So I love
Yeah.
I love everything that is like like a little part of experience in a I love experience movies, you know, from Enter the Void to Climax, even now more recently the Substance, you know. I'm not a big fan of body horror, but this one I really enjoyed. So um I just love that, you know, it's like an extra adrenaline, you know, an extra rush
Yeah.
that I wanted to just kind of give to people. And that's kind of what I was going for.
I feel like it
Yeah.
also allowed an expression of all of the inner fears and anxieties and all the inner
Demons.
Yeah.
that are being
Yeah.
explored.
Because many
Yeah.
often, you know, like usually when you, I mean, usually when you take LSD or any kind of hallucinogens, you know, people, you know, I mean, you can do it for recreational reasons, but many often people do it for exactly exploring and going deeper into their traumas and real, you know, kind of facing it and going through it. And so, you know, that also,
And
Yeah.
also layered in those moments, we're dealing with the paranormal experience as well,
Yeah.
depending on what your interpretation is of the film, because that's all subject to the watcher's, you know, interpretation. But we've introduced several elements. We have dreams and fantasies and fears and demons, and then we have paranormal and drugs. What
Yeah.
happens when you put that recipe?
I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, this movie's like, yes, it is a horror thriller, but I personally call it a an experimental movie. You know, it was just like
Mm.
because you know, no studio. It's like it was completely self and completely independently financed. So it's like I had the whole freedom to
Yeah.
truly just
Complete the creative freedom.
complete creative freedom without justifying to anybody, you know, or anything like that. So I just really went all for it and had a lot of fun. You know, in
That's
spite of
awesome.
challenges, just you know, and allowing.
Have you ever seen have you ever seen the show on Netflix called Maniac?
Which one?
It's called Maniac.
Yes, it's been a little while ago, right? Like a couple of years.
Yeah, that's that. It's been a few years at
Emma
least.
Stone, I think.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Emma Stone and Jonah Hill.
Yes.
That I talked about this already a number of times on the podcast, but that is one of my favorite. Like, I don't know if you can really call it a show because I'd say it's almost like a really long movie because it was kind of a limited release. It was one season and it kind of told the story, you know. So it was like an 8 hour movie essentially. And it was, for me, it's one of my favorite like of all time. I thought it was one of the and everyone I recommended it to hated it, but I absolutely loved it, and for this exact reason because it really was kind of I thought it was in my opinion, the best interpretation of the psychedelic experience put into film. Because I think kind of like you were just touching upon, like a lot of people, point to the psychedelic experience as and just the way it's like viewed in culture, pop culture, I guess you could call it, is kind of like a party thing, right? It's like, oh, it's a party drug, and and it's like, like when you hallucinate and you see, it's so trippy, whatever. Like that's really not the experience at all, and it really is an experience of kind of like going going deep into yourself and kind of facing things that you normally try to avoid facing and then overcoming it. And so, and in the show Maniac, like that's kind of the whole premise of the show is this experiment. We have the A, B, and C pill, right? And Emma Stone is she's like constantly taking the A pill, like she kind of gets addicted to it. Where it's kind of like she's kind of wallowing in her trauma and just kind of reliving it. But then eventually does the spoiler alert, does the treatment.
I know.
It's I watched it. I'll tell you, I in general, with consuming media like books, TV, movies, all these things, I never watch things twice, never read books twice unless I absolutely love it. And Maniac is one of the few shows that I watched twice, maybe even 3 times, because it was so well executed, and for this exact reason, they nailed it. I had to say, like, because again, it was weird, very weird, right? And you know, and they had all these kind of like different settings and all these like kind of like crazy dreams they were kind of going into, but it that wasn't the focus, right? Isn't like these were kind of just the backgrounds for the story to really, like, the stage for the story to really like take place on. And I just thought it was just beautifully done. I absolutely love that show and can't recommend it enough.
To watch that now.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what you're talking about. That's what it, maybe that's like where my mind was going is 100%. So and then okay, so now the other question I wanted to ask, and that is about the music. So beautiful music, and you said kind of at the beginning that you have a music studio. So you produce the music for the film?
No, let me just clarify. So we have an amazing composer, Snow Effects, and Lilia, as she did with every single person on this film, hand chose this person. And they did, you know, they worked on an incredible score together, and it's coming out soon, and she can tell you all about that. We ended up using my recording studio for the voiceover and ADR. So we had a problem with the audio on the film, which often happens with indie films. We had a problem with audio that we needed to go in and do ADR. And
What's ADR?
Just dialogue replacement, so we could get clean takes, which is a testament to the quality of the actors too, because everybody did a beautiful job, but we were able to clean up some audio that way. And then we have an amazing audio editor, dialogue editor, Corey, who's been a big supporter throughout the whole way. But then we also used my studio for a big voiceover script that we developed after we finished principal photography, and we wanted to still weave in more of the haunting of the mother. So we then used the asset that we had. We had the ability to do audio. We couldn't do any more filming.
Yeah,
So-
which was again another alignment.
Yeah.
And obviously, shout out to Cherokee Studios, and forever grateful that they're so open. And we created the whole voiceover dialogue there with Tiffany.
That was woven into the film, and then parts were given to the special effects woman in Australia. I can't
Jackie.
Yeah.
We did our sound design.
Sound design. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, we just played a lot. So basically, like a lot of post-production, we wanted, because the Haunting of Hollywood, right, the backstory of the mom, we wanted to have that completely haunting feeling, make it super strong. So we utilized sound design, voiceovers, music, just to kind of really bring that looming, overtown looming energy of that dark, strong, of Olivia's character. So we were able to do that. But going back to Snow Effects, who's the composer, we have about 29 or 30 original songs created specially for the film, from which I think only 27 made in the cut. There's like 4 something that are left out. We have a song specifically originally made by Ginger Woods, who is actually our Charlie Chaplin actor, who is actually a real musician in his real life. He made a song for us with me together. We did it, and our soundtrack album should be coming anytime soon now. It should be released on Spotify. And,
awesome.
It's been a great joy working on the music of this movie, where I think we bring a lot of the haunting element and the vibe of LA, and we gave a lot of diversity. We have from hip hop to ominous ambience to rock and roll, psychedelic rock, and then we incorporated some sound designs. Then we have one German-based song, which I'm very excited about to be released on the playlist. So we just wanted to, bring that eclectic diversity that we have in LA here, also through the music.
Yeah. There was one song, I think it was during the skateboarding sequence, I really enjoyed. It was really catchy. I was like really digging it.
I know, that's such a breath of fresh air. That scene music there, just kind of like,
it's a beautiful transition.
Yeah, it's like last fresh air before the madness.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed the the scene with the GoPro, like the found footage. It kind of like it was kind of give it was like it reminded me of like the Blair Witch Project. That kind of that sort of found footage sort of sequences. It was cool. It was a nice kind of
which to me it's still this one of the scariest movies ever made.
yeah. That was also really cool there because they did the whole they had the whole marketing campaign there where they had like put out news stories like this, so they made people think it was real. Like that was really it was really creative, and it was also super budget. It was also an indie film, I think. It was also very low budget, you know, and they did it way before it was it was mainstream. Now I think you see a lot more indie films, but this was what was it 15 years ago? It was a while ago that they put it out. Yeah, so it's they were really kind of ahead of their time there. It was very cool.
Definitely bigger inspiration for this movie.
Yeah?
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
What were some of your other big inspirations?
Mulholland Drive.
Which one?
Mulholland Drive, David Lynch.
Oh, nice.
And I think before you see the next one, I think also David Lynch is an artist we both share a passion for, but I think that world of dreams and psychedelia, like, you can see that influence for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. A friend of mine is very into David Lynch, and a couple of years ago, it was must have been 5 or 6 years ago. He like showed me this David Lynch project. He put out David Lynch put it out on YouTube. It was like a 3-5 minute video. And it was just like him and this monkey sitting across from each other in black and white, having like a conversation. It was like it was not my taste, but my friend was really into it. I was like, listen, this is your speed.
Something about art. You can be as weird as you want.
Yeah,
exactly. David Lynch was like, he's kind of the master of that, of kind of like really, really leaning heavily into the weird, which I really appreciate that. I always say like my favorite genre of book is like weird fiction. That's kind of the genre I kind of point to.
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of, kind of just, not quite dark fantasy or anything like that, but like kind of like things kind of get weird, like where it's realistic, but just like a little bit, off the beaten path.
He also was multidisciplinarian as well. He was painting, he was doing music. My business partner at my recording studio did some projects with him on the music side. But there were things where they would be recording music sometimes, and Bruce, my partner, didn't even know what exactly it was for. David would just be making stuff, and then years later, an album turns up, and it's part of this and that. He was always creating, painting.
Yeah, he was a full-time painter at his house.
Yeah, that's like real artists. Like tend to be not all of them, but a lot of them tend to be multidisciplinary. And I've seen some people who are just like extremely talented in like one thing. You think like, wow, like you're a master at whatever it is, painting, right? And then all of a sudden they pull out a guitar and start playing. You're like, dude, you can do that too, And like, it's it's for sure.
And whether you like a David Lynch film or not, you have to appreciate that he has always had one of the most unique voices. You can't say, oh yeah, that's influenced by XYZ. Like, he is the influence.
Yeah, like he did the, I don't know if it was the first, but I think it was the first Dune movie back in the 70s, I want to say, or 80s, something like that. He had made Dune before Villeneuve, and I don't know, like it gets a lot of hate, but I thought it was definitely not bad especially for the time. It was so unusual. It was so different.
Razorhead, people still don't really fully know what is that movie about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we kind of, just to wrap things up here, I have one last question for you both. I'll pose it to you. It's the question I pose to all my guests, and that is, how do you define success?
How do I define success? It's a very good question that I think I'm still looking for the answer. And I'm still trying to define what that means for me. I think that means when I'm able to really do the things that I love to do. and you're surrounded by people that you love and care about, and you work with people that you respect and you appreciate, and they feel the same way for you. And at the end of the day, when you go to bed and you're happy every day, you feel accomplished, or you feel like you move one step closer to where you want to be. Because I think, there's no like perfect success, or there's no like perfection, right? This is just like ideas that we all strive towards, but they're not really attainable. They're just like the idea. But just going every day one step closer to it is great. And obviously great health. If you really like being in
Mhm.
great health, physically, mentally, and having people around you being in good health, because that's first thing we need to keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just doing things that we love, really. Yeah.
I think I agree with all of that, and I think that for me, uh, I'm really striving to get to a place to be very much at peace with my process and to be kinder to myself, more accepting and kinder, um, and I think success for me, really just boils down to finding that joy and being in alignment with that joy and being better at recognizing the things that pull me out of it and eliminating those from my life, and sticking to the things that that do. And I know and I constantly am identifying, and I know what a lot of those things are: being creative, being I love working in collaboration with creative people. I love the process. Like I'm not somebody who wants to go alone in my room and make a movie by myself with a camera. I like collaboration. I'm inspired by all working with people, but then also people you like and enjoy. Being free of the drama and the unnecessary. But I think I've at least gained enough wisdom at this point in my life to know that I'm not trying to get to any place. I'm just trying to kind of clean up the way I do life.
Mm,
What about you?
very well
How do you
said.
define success?
How do I define success? I'm still trying to figure that out. But no, I think for me, I think it's a kind of multi-pronged. For me, success kind of comes down to obviously the it's overused and kind of cheesy, but happiness I think is really important. Um, being able to provide for my family, um, and being able to really do the things I want to be doing, and to be creating the things I want to be creating, and ultimately to be putting out into the world, the things that I think the things I need to be putting out. I think the messages I need to be saying. I think that's kind of ultimately, why I'm doing all this. Is to kind of get to, I don't know if it's a place necessarily, but to to get across the messages, and to materialize the things that I feel need to be materialized. And and I feel that I'm uniquely positioned to do those things, but at the same time I recognize that if I don't do it, somebody else will. you know and so for me, I think success is really kind of figuring out what it is, what's your message and what's your voice, if you will, finding it, and not only finding it but really succeeding in putting it out into the world.
There's a Martha Graham quote that I love, and I'm going to botch it all up, but anyone who listens to this can look it up to get it accurate. But it's basically just that idea that artists, we each have a unique expression, and if you don't express it, then it will never happen. Like it'll be lost.
Right.
So I think
Right.
one of the other kind of driving forces is to feel like I do that, that I make sure that I live that expression so that it's not lost. And I would take everything she said and everything you said, put that all together with the things, because everything you both mentioned as well are all things I completely agree with. Like, um, to definitely reach a point where you're proud of the expression you put out to the world.
I think sports take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Because very often, especially that's what I learned the most from this movie. When I started, and that's actually a reference that I talked with Bruce a lot. And he was like, well, you have Everest right now, top, you have to climb that Everest and you're at the beginning of the mountain, but it's okay, you can't just do it right away, be at the top,
Right.
just like do your step every day, you climb a little bit more, and then once you're at Everest, which is in my case was just finishing this, now you have to go down and then go on the next
And start again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay to take it day by day.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Where can
you.
everybody find you? Find the film, find all the socials and all that.
Absolutely. So you guys can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We are at Haunting of Hollywood, where you can keep updating with us. Right now, we are released in North America on an app called Monitor, which link you guys can find on Instagram. But we are going to be released worldwide on Amazon in the beginning of May. So
very exciting.
Yeah, very excited. So everybody from every corner of the world will be able to watch us from May. And just keep up with us, and I hope you guys all enjoy it. And but
amazing.
I am at Venus Slides Entertainment, or you can find me Lilia Doytchinova, and she's at the Tiffany Downey. But yeah, if you follow us on Instagram, you can keep up with all of us.
And also, please follow the socials because we're still adding more bonus content, more insight into our characters and updates on the music. And if there's any special events happening, they'll be posted there. And
we have merch available.
Yeah, merchandise.
Amazing.
And support the film, support indie filmmakers.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. We absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you for this great conversation.
Yeah, really, really like it.